How's it going, everybody? ChaoticMeatball here, and welcome back to another Hardcore Nuzlocke featuring a single legendary Pokemon. Today, I'm happy to say that I've got the power of God and anime on my side, as we're going with a single Arceus through Pokemon HeartGold and SoulSilver. Rules are simple and in the description, but we've got one addition. No typing plates, no judgment. Vanilla Arceus, let's see what we can do with him. Make sure to like the video, I want to see 2,000 likes minimum on here, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already since almost half of you guys aren't, and let's just jump in. So to get it out of the way, it does not matter which starter gets replaced here. However, I looked into it and I decided to replace Chikorita because that gives my rival Cyndaquil having the potential to burn Arceus. Sure, it won't matter late game once we get into some special attacks, but early on when I barely have access to any attacks and most of them being physical, it'll make it potentially harder to get through his battles without going down. His first battle goes rather easily though, as he doesn't have a fire-type move. I just use 4 seismic tosses as he uses 2 Leers and a tackle, KOing quickly enough and moving on into Violet City to take out the Sprout Tower and get into the gym. Now I decided to edge up for Falkner, getting up to the cusp of level 14 thanks to level 2 Rattata over on the route next to New Barktown. They provide 1 speed EV each and 16 experience, and since I only fought 1 optional trainer, I've got enough wiggle room to take out 128 of those to finish half of the speed EVs. Of course, I won't be able to get an optimal spread because I'm only using 1 Pokemon, but being able to get these early means that I don't have to worry about losing out on them the later and later I get into the run. Falkner leads off with a level 9 Pidgey that falls to a single punishment, but Pidgeotto is much more of a threat. Punishment isn't even a 2-shot, and he's got Roost, which he uses following a punishment and Seismic Toss to heal up nearly all of the damage. Thankfully, Tackle doesn't do much, but he's got 10 power points of Roost for me to run through here. However, it's not that big of a deal as he doesn't continue using them in a chain with my punishment landing, instead going for Gust as I follow up with a 4th punishment to KO and win the match. Such a strange move to put on the starting moveset of one of the most powerful Pokemon in all of the series. But you know what isn't strange? How good of a game today's sponsor is, Bloodline Heroes of Lithis. Bloodline Heroes of Lithis is a fantasy-themed hero collector RPG where you play as the High Guardian of the City of Light, recruiting powerful and unique champions to bolster your ranks, all wrapped up in an eye-pleasing package. One of the most unique things about Bloodline is the companion system, as all champions can either be a companion to the player or each other, and the higher your intimacy with said companion is, the more powerful your heir will be. It's like dropping off Pokemon at the daycare to get the best stats possible, but more accessible. Speaking of those champions, the different clans have some really slick designs that I'm a fan of. The Lycanus are made up of these really cool looking werewolves, the Fulgur are demigods with some of the best AoE skills in the game, but my favorite are the Karg, Dragonborns that can transform between their human and dragon forms. I'm also a pretty big fan when it comes to intricate chest plates, and boy does the male Karg have something that should invoke fear in any enemy that approaches him. Bloodline is offering my viewers an extremely rare half-dragonborn, half-demigod hybrid heir for free. All you've got to do is use my link in the description or scan the QR code on screen, and you'll retrieve the hybrid heir, 20 intimacy packs, 100,000 gold, and 100 diamonds. So what are you waiting for? Go raise a new legend in Bloodline Heroes of Lithis today. Thank you so much for sponsoring today's video, and speaking of legendaries, once we've grabbed the egg from Elm's assistant, we can head on through Union Cave, spinning out on Route 33 and getting into Azalea Town. Our first Team Rocket sighting is right down here in the Slowpoke Well, though Proton doesn't actually put up a fight. He's a pushover with a Zubat and a Coughing. May as well be any old rocket grunt who needs a punishment. However, Bugsy is not really as much of a pushover. Scyther is a pretty powerful Pokemon for this point in the game, and Kakuna has a chance to poison us, so let's see how God fares against a few bug types. He leads off with said Scyther as I go ahead and use Cosmic Power for this turn, defending against U-Turn as Metapod comes out, setting up a second Cosmic Power as Seismic Toss just keeps wailing on him, eventually getting the KO after a few healing items on Bugsy's end, leading back to Scyther. Punishment manages to get a critical hit before Scyther swaps out with U-Turn, which triggers his Citrus Berry as he goes out into Kakuna, a 2-shot with Punishment, thankfully without poisoning from Poison Sting. Last out is that Scyther, and he's just come to accept his fate, getting destroyed with a few more attacks and winning me the Hive Bagel? Why is this reversed? I typed badge with the D and G reversed in Google Docs while scripting this, and Google decided to autocorrect it to bagel. Well, I suppose I'll take my hive bagel then. Right on outside of the gym, though, is a fight against our rival, but thankfully we've got just the moveset. His lead Ghastly is weak to Dark, so Punishment one-shots as Quilava comes out second. A combo of Punishment, Seismic Toss, and a second Punishment manages to get through to him as he wastes time with 2 Leers, leaving just Zubat to fall to a single Punishment, winning me the fight without a single point of damage. I guess they wanted to show some reverence to their god and not damage him, but this god has no mercy. He just gives you the punishment of hell, sending you there via Seismic Toss. Well, upon that startling note, I suppose we can head through the Ilex Forest and Route 34 to get into Goldenrod City, the home of our third gym fight against Whitney. You may have cute pink anime hair, but God does not enjoy your sin of vanity, so he shall cast headbutt. Yeah, he's not allowed to do that first one. She leads off with a Clefairy, not much of a threat thanks to Headbutt being learned from the Ilex Forest, taking Clefairy down to red HP as she uses Mimic, learning Headbutt but not getting enough time to use it as she's now heal locked, wasting a Super Potion and going down to 2 more Headbutts. Last out is Miltank, and while Headbutt would normally be a 3-shot here, she's able to use a Milk Drink to prevent this. However, in order to prevent the sin of gluttony, Arceus decides to get a critical hit as penance for her deadly sin. That and to not waste my time. Not sure which one's the legit reason. With Whitney defeated, I figured I'd ask God for forgiveness as I engage into earthly possessions, grabbing plenty of TMs for later on in the run. We can get multiple copies of 2 moves here in particular, thanks to the lottery on the 6th floor of the department store, those being Shadow Claw and Dragon Claw. Shadow Claw gives us a super effective out to a type that we normally can't touch, and Dragon Claw is a physical way of hitting pesky dragon types later on in the game with super effective damage. Claire and Lance, beware! However, that's not all. Seeing as the TM for Calm Mind is stuck behind the battle frontier, I took a gander at Arceus' moveset to decide, what should I make this video unfun with today? And found that Swords Dance was available in the game corner, as well as the Silk Scarf to further bolster normal type moves. Well then, time for Physical Arceus. Topping that all off is the Return TM available in the department store on Sundays, and we're in business for pretty much the rest of the game, barring a few TMs I'll be grabbing along the way. After passing through Route 35, the National Park, and Routes 36 and 37, we are finally in Ekritique City, the base of operations for our 4th of 16 gym leaders. However, we've got to take on Mr. Oof here beforehand. I don't know why I named my rival Oof, I just thought it was funny. He's still relatively simple to pass by, as his lead Ghastly goes down to a super effective Dragon Claw, leading to Magnemite, who goes down to a Shadow Claw and Return combo after missing Thunder Wave. Third out is Quilava, a one-shot with Return, as is Zubat to win the battle. Simple enough, and if you expected Morty to put up any fight whatsoever, well, maybe Gengar can outspeed and put Arceus to sleep? Nah, the Lord thy God does not appreciate when humans look down upon him, dishing out punishment to Morty's Ghastly, 2 Haunter's, and Gengar with Shadow Claws for all. It's like salvation, but this god doesn't believe in mercy. He believes in bagel collection. One little hike through routes 38 and 39 later, and we're in Olivine City. Since the level caps start diverging around this point in the game and going out of order in comparison to the gym leaders, I figured just getting as much done as possible first would be smartest. So I took out the Lighthouse trainers before surfing towards Cianwood for both the medicine and to punish this martial artist for lacking due diligence through his training. Despite being a fighting type user and having the type advantage against Arceus, well... If you were asking for whom the Taco Bell tolls, it's for those who fail to harness their super effective attacks well enough. I'm letting this power go to my head, aren't I? With Ampharos's medicine in hand, I can restore the Lighthouse, but I'm not going after Jasmine just yet. Her level cap is 35, though Price's is 34, so I figured it would be better to go take out the Rocket Hat out in Mahogany Town first to open up his gym. Now, hold up. Who said you can dish out the godly punishment? I'm gonna have to deal out some of my own brand to you later. At the end of the road lies Petrol, another Rocket executive with a Zubat and a Coughing. But no, wait, he's cooler than Proton! He's got Eradicate too! Inferior normal type, be gone! Yeah, I'm really starting to think I'm letting this power go to my head. Anyway, just afterwards is a multi-battle between myself and Lance against Ariana and some random grunt, and despite Dragonite being a higher level than Arceus, I carry the team by KOing all of Ariana's Pokemon while he deals with the Peon. See you later, chump! Can't wait to Dragon Claw your Dragonite's eyes out. You know what, maybe that one's a little too far. With Team Rocket put out though, it's time for a fight against a respectful part of society. Look at you, Price, instilling knowledge and positive lessons into the next generation. Well, allow me to be the one that instills the fear of God into you. Price leads off with a Seal, so I go with a single Swords Dance, taking Icy Wind, which lowers my speed, but not enough for Seal, Piloswine, or Dugong to outspeed me, as I KO them all with a single return apiece. Give me my Glacier Bagel, old man. Jasmine's just sitting in her gym over in Olivine City though, so after grabbing the TM for Flamethrower from the Goldenrod game corner, I think I'm ready for her. She leads with Magnemite, one shot with Flamethrower, as is the second, leaving just her Steelix. Now I'm just continuing to go for Flamethrower here since Return and Shadow Claw aren't going to do a damn thing to this hulking behemoth. So Flamethrower lands and does a near one-shot. Pretty good for a physical attacker if I do say so myself, but Steelix just wastes her only turn with Screech, healing with a Citrus Berry as Arceus steals out one final Flamethrower for the win. Gotta love coming out of these fights unscathed. 7 badges down, 9 to go as Team Rocket is attempting one final outreach to Giovanni. Though after what we know from the Celebi event, I think Arceus knows where he's uncomfortably resting. It's needless, so after dealing with the first little bit, I'm able to go underground, running into my rival once again. Oof no longer stands a chance with unevolved Pokemon, as Arceus is able to set up a Swords Dance and sweep through, KOing Golbat with Return, Magnemite with Flamethrower, then Quilava and Sneasel with returns, leaving just Haunter to fall to a Dragon Claw. I did have Arceus holding a Person Berry here as well, as Golbat has Confuse Ray and I expected it to go for it on turn 1, but an Air Cutter was all I ended up taking. Not too shabby. So one chain of Rocket executives later, and we're on the outlook of the radio tower, ready to put Archer in his place. This fight starts pretty easily as Houndour goes down to Return, as does Houndoom, and Coughing, ending just as easily. Did I get your hopes up just a little bit for an actual difficult fight? Sorry about that, but you should have known that Team Rocket wasn't worth but a bucket of pig slop. One Ice Path later, and I'm ready for Claire. For this fight, of course, I swapped out Shadow Claw for Dragon Claw so that I'd have a super effective option, though I really don't foresee myself needing it. She leads off with Gyarados, an Intimidate user with Dragon Rage, but thanks to her using Dragon Rage twice, I'm able to set up 2 Sword Stances, getting up to +3 and sweeping through her Gyarados, 2 Dragonairs, and a Kingdra with 1 return apiece to win. But not getting the Rising Bagel yet. No, I gotta instead go find the cream cheese over in the Dragon's Den before she'll give me her delicious bagel. Not that bagel. There's enough Rule 34 on the internet of that, I'm sure. You know, I'm curious as to why Arceus hasn't punished me after bringing that one up. One fancy dance and inferior legendary later, seriously, just compare Lugia's battle theme with Ho-Oh's, and you'll probably agree that Ho-Oh's feels like a much better composed piece of epic music for a video game, and we're ready to head over to Kanto. Honestly, there's not much to say before the end of Victory Road, other than the TM for Earthquake is available in here, finally giving Arceus a ground-type option, as for some reason, God does not know how to dig. I guess it makes sense, why would he want to dig his way down into hell when he can just punish it through earthquakes? Well, standing here at the end of the road is my rival, awaiting one final showdown. Sorry, bud, it's not gonna go well. He leads off with Sneasel, so I go with 1 Sword Stance as he goes for Icy Wind, attempting to lower Arceus' speed, but thanks to maxed out speed EVs and a base 120 speed stat, that just isn't gonna work for ya. So the sweep begins with Return, KOing Sneasel and Golbat as Magneton comes in 3rd, going down to Flamethrower before Typhlosion comes out 4th, falls to Return, then Kadabra and Haunter go slightly differently, down to Shadow Claw to seal the deal. Well then, not too shabby, but let's see how the Elite Four fares. Will starts off like a chump, using Xatu and using Psychic and Confuse Ray as I go for 2 Sword Stances, getting out of Confuse Ray with a Person Berry and KOing all 5 of his Pokemon with 1 Shadow Claw each. Well, what about Koga? Is he tough? Well, Ariados doesn't have any status moves that he can do much to me with Poison Jab being the only thing that has an effect, so going in with a Pecha Berry allows me to set up 3 Sword Stances, taking 2 Poison Jabs and a Spider Web, which does nothing when I have no other Pokemon on my team, KOing Ariados with Shadow Claw, Fortress with a quad effective Flamethrower, Muck with Return, Crobat with Shadow Claw, and Venomoth with Shadow Claw to win the fight. with rubbing salt in the wound with that critical on Venomoth, that's gotta suck. Confusion, sleep, poison my bum, you hardly had any of that on your lead. Third is Bruno, and despite his type advantage, he wastes 3 turns with Hitmontop using counter, allowing for me to set up 3 Sword Stances, taking out Hitmontop, Hitmonlee, and Machamp with returns, Onix with Shadow Claw, and Hitmonchan with return to win in short order. This is the no fun zone, ladies and gentlemen, only sweeps allowed. With that fight though, it's time to replace Shadow Claw with Dragon Claw as we go into the fight with Karen. Shadow Claw is not going to do anything against her Pokemon. She leads off with an Umbreon that knows both Double Team and Confuse Ray, so by going in with a Persim Berry, I can assure myself that if I can get a Confuse Ray on turn 1, I can get 1 Sword Stance and KO on the following turn, but if she goes for Double Team on turn 1, I can go for return after said single Sword Stance, just in case I go missing the first one, getting 2 opportunities to attack and KO. The second scenario ends up happening, though the first return does land and I retain the Persim Berry, as Gengar comes in second, following to Dragon Claw. I don't have as much setup as I'd like, but it doesn't end up mattering as Houndoom falls to return, Murkrow to Shadow Claw, and Vileplume to return to win the last of the 4 fights. Alright then, time for my retribution. Lance, you tried upstaging me in the Rocket Hideout, and for that you must pay! He leads with Gyarados, as I go for Sword Stance to out his Intimidate. But then I figure, hey, I'll just set up 3. But he manages to get a critical with Waterfall on the second one, leaving me with only +3 attack and low HP as I go for return and KO, leading to Dragonite. All 3 of these come out in sequence, and of course super effective Dragon Claw is able to tear right through them, getting to level 52 on the last one. This only would have mattered if he had sent an Aerodactyl any earlier, as I wanted to make sure I had as much of a speed advantage here, due to his base 130 speed and Arceus' only being base 120, but it doesn't matter as Charizard's Outfith falls to return, and Aerodactyl gets outsped and nailed with Dragon Claw for the win. Somebody bust out the classic Staples button, since
that was easy.
With Johto out of the way, let's go ahead and knock Kanto into submission as well. Nothing here aside from the gym leaders are necessarily interesting though, so let's just go in order in which I challenged them. First up, Sabrina. I figured I'd challenge her first since psychic types are pretty easy to take out with Shadow Claw, and yeah, that's pretty true. Her Espeon, Mr. Mime, and Alakazam cannot stand up against a single Shadow Claw apiece after a Sword Stance. Marsh Bagel, acquired. Secondly is Erika. Her grass types don't hold much weight when they can't get off status, and while Held Berries help, what also helps is when the lead Jumpluff has nothing but Leech Seed, and then doesn't choose to use it. 2 Sword Stances and 4 returns downs Victory Bell after Jumpluff U-turns out of here. Blossom, Jumpluff, and Tangela giving me the Rainbow Bagel. That's like the Everything Bagel, but with colors instead of poppy seeds. Third is Misty after retrieving the machine part, and taking out Nugget Bridge, with her leading off with Golduck as I go with, you guessed it, Swords Dance. Persim Berry as my held item here prevents potential disaster with Water Pulse, and 4 returns after a single Swords Dance manages to down Golduck, Lapras, Starmie, and Quagsire to win the bout. Cascade Bagel obtained. Fourth on the chopping block is Brock, and I have access to Earthquake now and therefore a super effective attack. For rock types, that's physical. Well, technically I could have used Waterfall, but I preferred to hit Kabutops and Amistar for super effective damage as well. He leads off with Graveler, so I go with Sword Stance of course, against his Defense Curl, then use 5 Earthquakes to down Graveler, Rhyhorn, Onix, Kabutops, and Amistar to win. You know who else is weak to ground? Yeah, that's right, Blaine! He's hiding out over in the Sea Foam Islands, and after giving Arceus an emergency Rost Berry, we're ready. His lead Magcargo is able to blast out a Sunny Day and a boosted Overheat as I set up 2 Sword Stances, healing off that special attack deficit with a White Herb, though it doesn't matter as I'm able to quad effective blast him with Earthquake, doing the same but with regular super effective damage to Arcanine and Rapidash to KO and win. Oh, and I guess there's also Lieutenant Surge. I was worried about going for him first thing when I landed in Kanto due to potentially getting outsped Raichu and being unable to set up a Sword Stance for the Earthquake sweep, but with 5 Kanto badges under my belt, I should have more than enough speed and power. After fluking my way through his puzzle, I'm able to give Arceus a Cherry Berry, setting up a Swords Dance against his lead Raichu and negating his Thunder Wave, sweeping through with 5 Earthquakes, KOing Raichu, Electabuzz, his 2 Electrodes, and Magneton to win. Not sure why they wouldn't give the post-game guys like him and Blaine like Magazone, Electivire, and Magmortar, but but whatever, I'll take it. 6 down, 2 to go, and Janine's probably the most out of the way since I had never gotten the bike in this run, so I gotta head around the long way through routes 12 to 15, finally getting into Fuchsia City and taking her head on. She leads Crobat as I go with Swords Dance, negating her Confuse Ray with a Person Berry, then sweeping with Return on Crobat, Return on Weezing, Return on Ariados, Return on her second Ariados, and of course Return on Venomoth to win. Could have spiced it up with Earthquake on any of them, but I felt like being boring today. Well then, one level cap edging session later, and we're ready for Blue. He's got a cohesive team starting with Executor as I go with Arceus, and since I'm expecting Trick Room, I'm going straight for Shadow Claw in the hopes that the high critical hit rate will manage to dispel it, though I'll be able to wait around a few turns with Swords Dance if not. Thankfully, even though it doesn't one-shot, he instead goes for Hypnosis, the other move I prepared for by holding a Chesto Berry, negating it and KOing with Return. Well, with no Swords Dance, I gotta set it up on Machamp, who has no guard. However, he's dumb and goes for Stone Edge instead of Dynamic Punch. Thank you for throwing the game, sir. I will now take my free win. Return on Machamp, Earthquake on Arcanine, another Swords Dance and Earthquake on Rhydon, also that the second Intimidate from Gyarados would balance out, taking that and his last Pokemon Pidgeot out with Return to win the fight. That probably could have gone terribly if it were for Dynamic Punch, but I could have definitely played better by giving Arceus Protect over Shadow Claw, then alternating that in Swords Dance if I was worried about Trick Room. But hey, we made it through despite my complacency. Let's not let Red take advantage of that in our final showdown. To keep this fight as the reputation of the hardest fight in Pokemon, I'm going in with the level cap of 80, his lowest level, since it wouldn't exactly make sense to go against him with a cap of 88 against a Pikachu of all things. Speaking of Pikachu, he leads with it as I go for a single Swords Dance. I can survive a Volt Tackle and just enough turns of Hail if I set up exactly one of these, and thankfully no critical hit prevents that plan, allowing me to execute the sweep. Earthquake on Pikachu, Return on Blastoise, Return on Snorlax, Return on Lapras, Return on Venusaur, and Return on Charizard wins me the fight, finishing the run and proving that I truly had the power of God and anime on my side. Now technically, I could have played that last fight a little better by replacing Shadow Claw with Recover, as Arceus learns that at level 70, so I could have had a way to play around a potential Volt Tackle critical in order to heal up, though I don't think it would have done much in the grand scheme of things, as Recover would have been outpaced by Volt Tackle, then the Hail. Volt Tackle didn't do it on its own, but the Hail pushed it over the top. Either way though, I hope you enjoyed this video. It wasn't as much of a challenge as it was me shooting the shit and cracking God jokes over and over again so that I could beat a dead horse. But hey, that's just my kind of thing. I enjoy making people laugh, and I hope you got some of that today. If you enjoyed, consider leaving a like and a subscription for more videos soon, and maybe leave a comment below suggesting some legendaries and some games you'd like to see. Thank you again for watching, thanks to my patrons, and I hope you all stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you next time.